Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is April the 18th. It's 1442 on our ancient moon calendar, 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the ancient Greco-Roman calendar. Before we get started, I want to be sure that everyone knows about the symposium that we have coming up. It's regarding the financial reset. We are the reset. Just so that everyone is aware, we're the reset, and everything that the corporations and the CEOs were able to do in the previous debt age, we are able to do in the new age for Aquarius. And we have to be competent to do those things. So we're preparing now to just get ready and Islam and prepare for that. How do we prepare for the financial reset? There are some documents, and we all know about those documents. It's the same. We have nothing has changed. It's the same documents that we've always had to put on the public record, even to free ourselves. The Moorishe American Sovereign Investment Symposium is going to be on Monday, April the 26th. 1442 on the moon calendar, 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and it's on this very platform. It's at freeconferencecall.com/LightBay Moorishe Nation 1. The dial-in is 425-436-6280. The access code is 368903. We're going to be introducing, and actually not really introducing, but just putting together everything that we've done thus far and putting it in commercial, sovereign commercial form. And it's not really sovereign commercial form, it is actual sovereign commerce. This is the way that our ancestors have always done things, and they've always wanted us to do things this way. And that's what we're going to do. So we're taking it one step at a time. And just one moment. Let me do just a couple of things here. All right, we want to get a few things done here. And so we're going to be introducing the sovereign commerce in a very lawful manner. I've not seen anyone do it this way yet, and after looking through all of the laws and the way that our ancestors did things, and the way that they have been having us to build and do things completely outside of capitalism, we see exactly why they have had us doing the things that we're doing. For example, the things that we're going to need to do, and most have already done this, is proclaim your sovereign status as a Moorishe American Moroccan national. That's with the name change and judicial proclamation documents that we've always used. Also, termination of all corporate contracts. That is yet another piece of the puzzle in red and all lowercase letters. That is how we, that is our national expression, and that's how we do what we need to do. Also, a declaration or proclamation of sovereign trust. That's also a part of the documents that we're putting on the public record. And then knowing how to do liens and court actions. That's going to be key for this next elevation that we're making on a universal level. And the reason that our courts are so important is because if you look back at how the hybrids did things, the way that they did things is they had their fake bankruptcy court standing on the sidelines waiting, and the moment they wanted to take something, they would use their quote-unquote tax courts and quote-unquote bankruptcy courts and their financial courts to do whatever it is that they needed to do where corporations are concerned, and that involved all types of cross-collateralization of property and everything, which was all fraud. And so us being the court is going to be the key, because anytime there's any controversy, especially in where we're going here next, with regard to property and things like that, we don't expect it to be any controversy, but our courts will always be there, and each more is the sovereign Article 3 ancient Moroccan court. So we all who are going into commerce, you need to know how to do the court actions, and it is suggested that you start by using your own court to clear anything you have going on in your own personal space, where fakes and frauds and capital letters and capitalization and all of that, war rants, things like that, all of that stuff, because we know that that doesn't apply to us, it's fraud, and so we use our courts to state that competently that all of that is fraud. And once we have disconnected and terminated, and we never really were connected to that capitalism system, but we must state that competently on the public record. Once we state it competently on the public record by liens and court actions on anyone attempting to put fraud on us or induce us to the fraud of claiming a court, we use our courts to deal with that on our land. And so it is suggested that we go ahead and do all of that, get it done, so that as we move into commerce, we are already well versed in our court actions, because in some cases it's going to require court actions right on the spot, especially when you're talking about property. We're going to have to do court actions right there, because everything that we do and everything that they were previously doing when we were asleep, whenever they pull you over, they were doing a whole court action and finding the court guilty right there on the side of the road, and then issuing a judgment of a fine or jail or whatever. They were doing whole court actions right there on the side of the road, or in the, wherever there were violations against the sovereign heirs. Okay, so we want to be sure that we know how to do the court actions, and make sure that we can do them right there on the spot, no matter where we are. We want to be able to do them anywhere, actually. So having said that, just one moment, let's get that out of here. Having said that, we want to bring forth, I want to say a little something to the new Moors, okay? With regard to the new Moors, there are some who, when we first wake up, many of us, this has happened to many of us, we rise very quickly. We rise very quickly. And we rise to the point where our spiritual eye, our pineal gland, our metavision, our ancestral knower begins to show us things, information, super high dimensional information, to the point where we initially, many of us have found it difficult to function on this dimension. Islam Justice I booted that, and they knew they were going to get booted because of that. Those are hybrids pretending to be the heirs as usual. So there are some who they rise so quickly in the spirit realm that they find it difficult to function on this dimension. And what does that look like when it seems like it's a little bit difficult to adjust? Like, you know, that is, we know that, for example, let's just say you have a job, and then you wake up and you realize that it's fraud, that the all caps name is fraud. Now, I'm not saying that the resource is fraud. I'm saying the all caps name is fraud. And then, you know, some find it difficult to remain in those places, and rightfully so. Justice Frank, you're good. I knew who they were, and I know who you are. We know you. We know each other. We are one. Islam. I booted the fake one. They want to be you, and I can see why. So on those jobs, in many cases, and I'm a prime example of that. When I first woke up, well, right before I woke up in 2017, I put in job applications to go back to work at the VA, medical centers, and a couple of the other places, and that I had worked for previously. Then I woke up, and between the time that I put the application in and my waking up, shortly after I woke up, I got calls back, and they were saying, you know, whichever one of these jobs you want, you can have it. Just pick it, and then come on in, and let's get you fingerprinted. Let's get you into the onboarding is the term that they use, and you know, flags were flying all over the place in my spirit about that. Some more choose to continue on in that system and in that vein, and then navigate their way out. That's okay. If that's what you choose to do, it's okay. You will navigate your way through that system. Whether you stay in it or you get out of it, you'll navigate your way through. So I'm not saying it's bad either way, whether you stay in or get out. I chose to stay out of it. I had gotten to the point where I went and it was just, I saw them doing things when they were bringing people in the onboarding process. I saw them doing things that I knew was going to be, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel right to me. In my spirit, it didn't feel right. And now when I look back on it, it was not right for me. And so spiritually, many of us, we wake up and we rise, we come in with our eyes wide open. And sometimes for some, that can cause some discomfort because you see that the job is fraud, and it kind of is in a way, but again, those who are in them or those who want to go that route, you know, go that route if that's the way that your spirit is leading you to go. No one can tell you what's right or wrong for you. For me, that was wrong. I did not want to do it because I knew that there was something that the ancestors wanted to show me. And they, you know, they were dealing with me the whole time and letting me know some things as I went through the process. And then when it got to fingerprinting on the job that I finally picked, I told them I couldn't do it, and then I gave them the law and all of that. And it caught them by complete surprise, and I knew then that I was not going to go into that. I said all of that to say this. Because you now see the frauds, you may disconnect completely from the workplace job life altogether. Or, you know, again, you're encouraged to do whatever you have to do in order to restore the full activation of your ancestral connection. My ancestral connection could not be as active if I had gone into that. And I didn't know that at the time, but the ancestors were showing it to me the whole time, so I ended up turning down all three of the jobs that they were saying go to. The magic superpower for supernaturals is going to be our super ability to function in this dimension and continue rising while changing the manifestation of this dimension. Okay, and what I mean by that is this. That whole job thing and all the economy and all of that is changing because we're changing it. We're moving to, we've already moved to a gold-back system, and that affects the way we do things. We don't fill out their forms, we do affidavits, et cetera, et cetera. And so our challenge, and it's, to me, it's a beautiful opportunity, is to be able to continue rising spiritually and metaphysically and continue this grand rising. We're never going to yield to anything that has to do with corporate fraud. We're out of that. Capitalism, it's a wrap for us. We don't do it. We know we're not any name in all black letters. We will never yield our estate. So we may ask our ancestors, how do we dance within the different dimensions successfully? How do we balance? You know, because it's an adjustment. How do we prosper and excel in what felt like two unrelated dimensions? When I woke all the way up over here, I thought everything over there is fraud, and that was correct. Everything that I was seeing over there was fraud in that corporate world, quote-unquote corporate world. It was all based on a lie. In other words, I'm not who I thought I was over there. And so the ancestors are showing us how to dance between the dimensions, and that's actually it's a beautiful dance. It's called, in the Bibliotheliotech, they call it crossing between the veil, entering into the Holy of Holies and being able to transition easily and move easily about. In fact, as we continue rising and remembering the dance between the dimensions, because our ancestors did it, it's in our ONA, it's in our blood to dance between those two. Yes, Justice Niall, in the chat, when it starts in fraud, it stays in fraud. And that's the part that I was not willing to compromise on. I was not going, I didn't care what I had to do. I didn't care if I missed meals or anything. I was not going to go back to that when I know who I am. And then we know we're the heirs to all land, all natural resources and everything. So as we continue remembering how to dance, in other words, we know all the resources on the land are ours. We know that. How do we access them and not compromise and go back to being corporate? That has been the number one issue that I see with the Moors. That is the part that some Moors have said, you know what? I don't want to fight that fight. I'm going back into corporate, and they just go back into corporate. It's never comfortable. And once you wake up, you can't go, you're never going to comfortably sleep again. So they always end up trying to find a way to navigate back out of that. We're not going to compromise at all, ever. So as we learn to dance between the dimensions, we're finding it to be the most beautiful dance and the most beautiful experience ever, because we can see now that we don't ever have to be someone that we're not. We never have to be a name in black. We never have to be a part of capitalism. And in fact, the only way to access the state is to come out of her capitalism. That's the only way to fully access the whole estate and not be violated. Because see, capitalists will come looking for you. And that's why we do the termination of all corporate contracts. And then we say, yes, let the dead bury the dead. That's a must. We have to do that as we're getting ready for the symposium that's coming up on April 26th, and everything thereafter is going to, it's dependent on making sure that we don't have any ties over there, because, you know, we're now dealing with subject and master. Subject and master, not master and court. See, when Yeshua woke up, rose from the dead, there was no more dealing with the dead and talking to the dead and all of that. It was all a wrap then. So as we continue learning to do this dance of get the resources but don't compromise. Get the resources, don't compromise. Access the estate, but don't compromise. It matches our abundant spirit realm with our abundant natural manifestation, and that's what we're doing, is we're now moving to match what we see for ourselves and know about ourselves in the spirit, matching that with the physical manifestation. And what we're dealing with here on this realm, in this realm. Our dance brings what we see in the spirit for ourselves and our nation and our government into this dimension as we continue to demonstrate all that we remember in our high Moorish sciences and studies and our third eye erudition. My suggestion for the most fruitful, enjoyable, precise dance is this, and this is just one suggestion of many different ways to make that dance beautiful in terms of accessing the resources, never compromising, never going back to a dead status, making sure that we keep things terminated, etc. Is to study the other signs of the zodiac that may have a characteristic that you need in order to help you continue to move and not want to go back to that course. So for some, for example, there are some who, when it comes time, you know, you do your study, but then when it comes time to do the demonstration, something in, you know, fear pops up, and you end up not demonstrating the way that you want it or had it planned out in your head. Well, go to some of the other zodiac signs and look at the ones that are most bold. Look at the ones that are most bold. And pull from that and read about them and study them and then practice. Because see, we have to be well-rounded in all the signs of the zodiac. That's one of our super abilities. I'm a Leo, and Leos are bold and assertive and, you know, all of that. That's great. But Leos also have some things that could hinder us if we don't study some of the other signs and pull from them. For example, one of the characteristics of Leo that we have spoken about and work on and ensure that we keep it in check is ego. You know, because in that other corporate setting, that huge, giant, oversized ego was necessary in order to excel. Well, that's not necessary over here. Now that we're awake, we don't need that. So what we're doing is looking into the other signs. Yes, in the chat. we're looking at the other signs. For example, my mother she is a Sagittarius. Now she's transitioned. But when I think about how successful she was on the other side, it was because she was so approachable and humble, but she knew, she knew what she wanted and she knew how to get it. So I'm studying the way she did things because she was a prime example of keeping ego in check so that it doesn't hinder the mission, because we all have a mission. So then look at your sign and see whatever it is so that you can dance between these dimensions and not be, and even if you're afraid, because sometimes I get afraid, that fear pops up every now and then when I go to do a demonstration, but I can't let it stop me. So I don't. But I still have to be peaceful. I can't be aggressive. I have to actually assert and stand, but not be warlike. And so that's a dance. That's a dance. And so for a lot of the new Moors, sometimes they come in and they go full force into demonstrations. And I did that too. I jumped in with both feet. I did not even waste time. And I was tested immediately after that. 5 months into being a new Moor, the ancestors, they felt like I was ready to do a jail test. And they were right. I was detained, and it was not for anything that I was doing, nothing unlawful. I was simply traveling in the jurisdiction of my ancestral inherited estate. Now that I look back on that detainment time, I know that it was 1,000,000,000% ordained by the ancestors to show me some things. It did not harm me. I was in there for 25 days. And when I look back on it, it was a beautiful experience because I learned a lot. And it made me even bolder once I got out. But it also taught me to, when I see something, a resource on our land, because we're seeing now how the whole land is ours. It's ours. It's been ours. But as we're seeing how to navigate, we also know that we must do so competently. Okay, so that gives me not pause or hesitation, but wisdom in the movement. And so we want to offer a suggestion for the new Moors and the Moors who, I consider myself somewhat new, but not really, because 2017 in comparison to 30 years of more, Moors knowing who they are, is not much, But for Moors who are brand new, it's, I'm considered an older Moor. I'm okay with all of that. We want to offer the suggestion that you do the study. Don't be afraid to be tested. Don't be afraid to be tested. I was tested again recently, and that was by my own sovereign will. Went back into the POW camp and did the consular court actions, and our ancestors were so brilliantly there and so present, and they did everything that I mean, even far beyond what I could have imagined that they would do for me in terms of the protection and showing me how powerful we really are, because we're very, very powerful. Moors are very powerful. Our courts, our consular courts, are the most powerful courts in heaven and on earth. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that already. It's not even a surprise. So I wanted to offer that as a suggestion for those who you want to do your demonstrations, but you may be a little hesitant. Some are saying, "Oh, I don't ever want to go to jail," or "I don't ever want." You don't have to. You're tested according to whatever the ancestors. And actually, we call forth our own test. We call forth our own test. I called forth the test that I did because when I first woke up and I looked around, I said to the ancestors, and I've stated this before, ancestors, how do we get past fake policy enforcers and fake court? Because to me, that was the biggest, hairiest monster ever. How do we get past them? And the ancestor said, you're going to test past them. But they didn't tell me that at the time. They just, they did what they normally do, guided me to the information that I would need in order to get past that. And then they tested me to show me that those things they can't hurt you. They can't hurt you. When you're sincere and you study, they can't hurt you. And then you demonstrate, even in your fear, you demonstrate. And then, with this second test, it was monumental because I found out then that even if they had keys, they couldn't overpower our court. And so that's what the testing is all about. And that's the dance between the two worlds. Now, for some, most Moors that are coming in now won't ever have to even go through that. Some will, some won't. But even the ones who do go through that, you have the keys. You already have the keys. The keys are consular court action, sincerity, and study, and unselfishness, humility. And humility is not really, I don't think that's the right word, because that's a word that the hybrids taught, so I know it's not the right word. It's a different word from that. But it means that we keep our ego in its rightful place. And that's according to our signs too. So with our astrological signs, we can use the other signs and we can pull from them. Some people call it channeling. It doesn't have to be channeling for you. It can just be look at what someone that you know who is that sign, if they have a characteristic that you feel you can use in order to be more successful in this dimension, then by all means pull from that and practice it. And that's a huge key, especially for the Moors who wake up with their eyes wide open and they jump in with both feet. Take a moment to look around at the other Moors and pull from any characteristics that they have that you know will assist you in your demonstration. Some Moors rise so fast spiritually that at every now and then, and I don't know a single Moor who hasn't had this thought, that people around you might think that you're going a little bit off mentally, okay, because you rise so quickly spiritually, that you see things that you didn't see before, in terms of all of that being fraud over there. And those who are asleep, they think that you should be going and being the name in black ink and all capital letters and all of that. They're feeling that, they think something's wrong with you. You don't want to be that. And so, no, you're not crazy. And in order to balance that, it's going to be important to just look around at some of the other Moors and pull from their signs so that you can gain your equilibrium without having to feel like, like something's wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you. And in fact, the hybrids already know who we are. They've known the whole time. I'm going to put in the chat a link to a video. And this video is one that where one of the ones doing business as president, His name is Warren G. Harding. And it's interesting because his middle name is Gamaliel Harding, Warren G. Harding. And in this video, and this is just to show you that for sure they have always known who we are. In this video, Warren G. Harding in the 1920s is talking about nationality. And from the onset of this video all the way up until, you know, the end, but especially at the beginning of the video, he's talking about nationality. And then at the end of the video, he mentions something about our flag and their flag. He says something about we are going to respect your flag and our flag, something similar to that. And don't quote me on exactly what his words were, but he mentioned the two flags. So we already know that he knew. But from the very beginning of the video, he's talking about nationality and all of that. So they've always known who we are, and we have to know who we are. No, we're not crazy. Everything that we're doing is absolutely lawful. Be at peace about all of that. We are fully governing right now, whether you realize it or not. We're fully governing, and the reason why we can say that is because our courts are active. 100% active. There are court actions going on almost every day, and in fact I would say every day, because everything that we do is a court action. However, the deliberate court actions are going on every day as well. This call is a court action. All of our calls are court actions, Article 3 court actions. And that's just putting things on the public record so that all are aware, and that's another reason why we put everything on YouTube. So for those who are waking up, and you wake up really quickly, you know, the tests do come, so don't be surprised by that. And it's nothing to fear. Just stand on your square, and the ancestors will help you navigate the test. It's suggested that we, and this is for the new Moors coming in, it is suggested that you take a few hours, or maybe a couple of hours a day sabbatical. Or if you can, take a whole day sabbatical to study the sign that best manifests the super ability that you need. Tap into that sign and its energy. Tap into its spirit. Tap into the ancient ancestral cellular memory of that sign. And then practice the use of that super ability. Okay, so we are God, so we can do all of that. So that when it comes time for your testing, and you will know ahead of time that testing is coming. There's not a single Moor who's ever been detained that didn't feel it's coming first. The ancestors always warn us ahead of time. And it's not a warning, it's just a heads up that a test is coming. And for some who, again, many of the new Moors coming in won't ever have to go through that. But they will be tested. You will be tested. There will be tests, whether it be with foreclosures or, you know, standing on your square where domiciled. Yes. All of that to continue the grand rising and to continue waking us up and keeping us awake and ensuring that we don't go back to sleep, that we do our studies and all of that. When we tap in and see that the knower knows everything, we will, the sooner we yield to the fact that the ancestors are going to take care of us no matter what the test is. That I know for sure, and I've gone through some testing. And many more have. It will be easier, and we will be able to move more and navigate more peacefully. And not, it's almost like you don't have to worry. and you don't have to worry about anything. The worry that I had previously about how do we get past that big, giant, hairy thing that is called policy enforcers and fake court. The ancestors showed me how to get past it, but I had to do court actions to get past it, you know. And I had to come face to face with that thing that I was afraid of. So the ancestors are very keen to put us face to face with that thing that we fear so that we can see that we never had anything to fear in the first place. See, today I'm not afraid of any of that. I'm not afraid of any of it because I know that I'll do what the ancestors have us doing, which is court actions. We've already leaned, all of that. So having said that, let me see. Are there any questions with regard to that?
Islam?
Islam members.
You know something, I wanted to say something specifically about the court actions themselves. Just to make sure, because I don't have it memorized where I can just say it like that. But what I did do, and it helped me, so maybe it might help some of the other Moors, was to take it and I put it on my phone. You know, just saved it on my phone so I can always have it to say, and put it in what do you call it, the vessel, as far as me getting back and forth to wherever I need to be, and then also like keeping it by the door, like the front door, and just different things like that, because I'm dealing with the domicile issue as well. So just in case I need to do that, if anyone ever decides to show, because I've already did that court action in their hearings, in their administrative hearings already. So, but I did that just to make sure I had it, wherever you go, because you may not remember it, but if you have it on your phone, keep it in your wallet, purse, or you know what I mean, wherever you need it, you won't have to worry about, oh, I can't think of it right now. You know what I mean? So I just thought that would help other Moors.
Yes.
Islam, I yield.
Islam. Absolutely. That is actually how I was able to remember the court actions when I went into the POW camp, is number one, just from doing them. Okay. And number two, I hand wrote out what it is, and I used to read it before each court action that I recorded on YouTube, because I did court actions on YouTube quite regularly, and that's how I was able to memorize the court language. And then when I got in there, see, that's why we have to keep our vessels open to the ancestral energies, and keep filling our vessels with energies that are positive and sincere and demonstrate worthy. And when I say demonstrate worthy, I mean don't fill your vessel with a bunch of gossip and a bunch of naysayers, letting people speak into your life negatively, or speak into the lives of your brothers and sisters negatively. Don't allow that to happen. Because once I got into the POW camp, the ancestors gave me the one piece that was missing from my court actions, which is raising them from the dead, which is the proper rebuttal to what the fake courts do or were doing previously. The way they would do things previously is they would have someone yell, "All rise," and then a fake judge would walk in, and the fake judge would say, "Be seated." And and we didn't realize it then, but whenever the fake judge said, "Be seated," and people sat down, that whoever that fake judge was already had jurisdiction, so it didn't even matter what you said when you got up there, because you stood when they told you to stand, and you sat when they told you to sit. Sitting you down means that if you're a justice, and you're seated on the bench, you're supposed to actually be standing, because that's what governments do. We stand. We don't sit. We stand. So the ancestors gave me that piece, and that is the one piece I know in my spirit that I'm so grateful they gave me, because they gave it to me right on time, and it worked like a charm. It worked like a charm. And most of you know that the story of when I went into the POW camp in February. I found out just how amazing our ancestors really are in terms of our courts. They've always known, and even the guard in there, one of the ones doing business, the corrections officer, was telling the others that about our Moroccan courts, our ancient Moroccan courts. And he said specifically that they should be coming to our court. He said that they can use our courts, but they don't have a choice. That's a must. And that's why all of us have to learn court actions, because we need all hands on deck. So, and that's also in preparation for sovereign commerce. Okay. Yes, in the chat, Justice Nael. And always ask them the questions. Don't let them ask you any questions. Do you understand? That's one of the questions. That's where all of my questions start with, aside from the one question of, what is your name? We always ask, what is your name? And do you understand? And I'm also finding out, too, that I didn't even really have to say, all rise and stand. This is, I'm going to say that every time, even if I'm in the grocery store or wherever I am. And I'm still working on that piece right there. Fortunately, our ancestors, they are very, they give us lots of room to learn and to grow in those areas, in whatever area we see. We have to do court actions on the spot, everywhere, because they're doing mass stuff, and that stuff is unlawful. It's for the dead. That's what that's for, just so that we're aware. The mass piece is a Masonic ritual. And so we have to do court actions where even that is concerned, So to the new Moors, don't be afraid of testing. To all Moors, don't be afraid of testing. It happens, and the ancestors will never test us if we're not ready. That's number one. And number two, the only time that a test might seem like it's coming unawares is if there's some energy in our lives and we refuse to look at that energy and clear it and fix it, whatever the energy may be. Okay. Having said that, is everyone clear as we're moving into commerce? And this is commerce this is going to be on a universal scale. We're going to be doing commerce with the other nations of the earth, and we must do it in sovereign credit and gold-backed money. We cannot do it in corporate money, because that's not real money. Fiat. We can't do it with fiat. Sure that I make it so that HEIRS can get in. Are there any, now let me go over quickly the documents that are necessary for commerce, and for, we want to have them done by the symposium time. They'll be underneath this video as well. Name change, judicial proclamation, declaration of trust, also the liens and the court actions, and those documents again will be underneath this video. So those are the things that are necessary, because we'll be building on those with other documents coming up on the Monday of the 26th. It's a Monday that the symposium is on. We're going to be putting other documents with those documents as well. So are there any questions or comments about that or any of the other processes that we do? Any questions about demonstrations, etc.? Make sure that your identifications are in all lowercase letters if you can. As soon as you can get them done in all lowercase letters, have them done in all lowercase letters. And at the appointed time, once we meet at the symposium, which is going to be on this same platform, we're going to be introducing some other instruments for us to use. So we're looking forward to that as well. They're instruments that we've been looking forward to anyway. And so it's time for that as well. All of the products that are coming from...
Hey, Pauline, why do you look like a fucking Oompa Loompa in your last video?
All of the products that are coming from this sovereign commerce that we're doing, they have to be as quickly as possible. I know some are already doing commerce, but as quickly as possible, we need to be moving to all natural products. Everything needs to be coming from the earth. Okay? And
why do you look like an Oompa Loompa, Pauline?
From the earth, the products that will be coming from the earth, all we have to do is look on YouTube at natural products. And the things that we have seen that they've been saying are natural products are not natural, just so that we're aware of that. Those things are not natural. Everything, if you can get it at a grocery store, then
all sit and squat for the Pauline Comedy Show.
If you can get it from a grocery store, it's not natural. Because the only ones who actually have the authority to do 100% natural products is the heirs. Everything else is mixed or completely synthetic. So the whole earth is waiting for natural products because that's going to help us live longer and live better and healthier lives. And that's the only way that those products can be put out onto the market, is that we do it. So go out into the territories and look around and see what natural products you can see in your territories. And every territory is so filled with all natural raw materials that it is just amazing, absolutely amazing. So be prepared. Just one moment. So go out onto the territory because we're going to be putting some foundational pieces in place that are going to assist with getting those products where they need to go. And it's not going to be an overnight process, so don't think that it's going to be an overnight process. It won't be. Just one moment. Let me figure out which one that is. I think it's this one. Okay. Let's see. Justice Frank, are you there? Yes, you're there. Okay, good. We know that that's not you, Justice Frank. That's someone who wants to be Justice Frank, but they cannot be him because there's only one Justice Frank. A jewel in our nation, by the way. So are there any questions or comments with regard to the natural resources? Because there is going to be a way each one of us can access the natural resources on the land. There's so many that are untouched that it's just unbelievable. And everything is already set up. For example, there's a lot of gold on our land. And I'll just use that as an example because that's something that people can relate to. But there are resources that are worth far more than gold on our land that are sitting there waiting for us, that are just untouched, completely untouched, that can't be touched unless we do it. Per ounce, let's just say, I mean, even if gold on the land was, let's say, I think they were saying it was about 3,000 sovereign credits per ounce. Well, there are things on our land that are worth 50,000 per ounce or more, to include some food items. That's what I'm seeing, and it's going to, the reason why everything that we do, we charge a premium for it in terms of sovereign credits and gold-backed sovereign credits, is because all of the natural resources, first of all, they come from the best land on earth, which is this one, and all Moors have access to it, so no one can stop you from going out onto your land and getting whatever it is that you need. And then hand making and hand harvesting. Because it's going to be harvested by our hand, that's what makes it so valuable to the rest of the earth. Not only that, but let's just take gold, for example. There are different structures of gold that we can even eat. I don't know if you've seen people consuming monoatomic gold and all of that, but the way that natural gold works with our bodies, especially in its monoatomic form, and here's the thing about the natural stuff. Everything that's natural is going to be have a lower atomic number. It won't be adulterated and corrupted and mixed and amalgamated. It's going to be pure. And those things work magic for us. Magic for us. And when I say magic, I mean not a single one of us has to age, and not a single one of us has to get sick, because those natural resources work that well with our bodies that when we either ingest them or use them or, wear them or, take in the aroma or whatever it may be, those natural resources that are out there just waiting for us, they're going to make it so that we all live better lives. But again, that's what we're preparing for, is to be able to put all of that onto the market, the earth-wide market, because everyone's waiting for the natural resources that come from this land. Okay, not some other place, not way over here and way over there. They want it from here because they already know that this is the rock, this is the place, this is the spot, this is heaven, this land. And so room is being made for us right now in terms of there are many who are leaving here because we're going to need no encumbrances, no foreign encumbrance. And we've already cleared that way ourselves with our court actions and liens and things like that, and we're going to continue to do that. We've made great progress. We're slowing down a lot of that, foolishness on our land. We have really made a lot of progress there. And we're going to continue doing that because, again, this land is the land that everyone was coveting and wanting. It's this one. and it remains untouched in terms of harvesting of the resources. That is specifically, we've been being groomed for that commerce. We've been being groomed for that commerce, to govern that commerce. And now we're at a point now where, okay, we have to make sure that our documents are competent, that they don't look, that they are as high in science and math. Because see, our documents are pure science and math. They look like words, but that's really math. It's called gematria. And we're making sure that our documents mathematically are aligned with our sovereign status. And that's where all lowercase letters, red, and ancient English are concerned. Hypothecations of that is things like capitalism and parse syntax, as done by corporate. Those are hypothecations of the truth of our documents, and our documents are the truth of that. The math makes sense. It aligns with nature, with our sovereign status. That's why we write the way we do, and we speak the way we do, and read the way we do, and cast spells and break spells the way we do. So, again, please make sure that you have your documents in red and all lowercase letters. They will be, some that can be edited will be under this video. You will have to edit them because when you pull those documents down, sometimes operating systems are different and it messes with the formatting, but that's not something that can't be edited and fixed. So they're already on government letterhead. So make sure that you get them, get them on the public record with your right red thumbprint and your red signature in all lowercase letters. That's really all you need because that's the highest seal, so you don't necessarily have to send them off somewhere and get them, stamped and sealed, and be sure to get your own stamps and seals. Okay, the government stamp, the government seals and the consulate seal are underneath this video as well. They're underneath all of our videos. At least the last 10 or 12 or 15 videos. The seals are under there. Take them and use them. And get your stamps made from those seals so that we are all speaking with the same voice. We're all the government. There's no hindrance to you being yourself, which is the law and the government. So that we can, as we move into commerce, we move that way peacefully and unencumbered. That's what the symposium is for. It's going to introduce the commerce in a way that makes it as safe as possible for us. And when I say safe, we're safe already. We already know that. We're safe. We just need to ensure that as we continue the same way we've been doing, that we're all saying the same thing and moving in the same way in terms of the commerce and the documents. Because as you know, the hybrids, when they're doing whatever commerce they were doing, that corporate commerce, they had documents to back up whatever they were doing, even though it was fraud. So we want to make sure that our documents are sound, and we know that they are. In red and all lowercase letters, you can't go wrong with that. And we've proven that with the last few videos that we've done. So that we can add on top of that the commercial documents that we're going to be putting out at the symposium. And it won't be, I'm trying to say as much as I can without saying too much about what we're going to be doing at the symposium. So all who can attend, please attend. It's on Monday, April 26th. Are there any questions or comments about commerce for those who are doing commerce right now, it is going to change slightly in alignment with what we're doing because the money system is changed. And right now, everything is operating digitally or by internet. At some point, that has to manifest again out here where we are. And not everything is operating that way because we have liens and things that we're still doing. So don't stop doing the liens, don't stop doing the court actions because those are financial documents also. They're going to come in handy when they're done in red and all lowercase letters as we continue establishing, and not really establishing, but activating or reactivating the financial system, the gold-backed financial system, because that's some steps that we've had to take as a nation together. Another step that we took recently, and I want to be sure that let me see if I can pull it up. Let's see. I believe I did it on the 16th. I want to be sure. Okay. Let me pull this document up. We did a video recently stating that the ancient District for Columbia is the seat of government. And that is actually correct and in alignment with all that we're seeing in the law and in what's here. Ancient District for Columbia is all of North America. We all have heard of Queen Columbia, who's really Empress Columbia. And all of North America is the ancient District for Columbia, which the fake DC, the corporate one, is a hypothecation of the real seat of government. And so we have placed it on the public record and opened that piece up so that where municipality is concerned, sovereign municipality, we have but restated, reactivated our sovereign municipality. And what that does is it is proper rebuttal to fake policy enforcers and all of that who, the ones doing business as municipal court. We're already that. We were never not that. We just needed to be competent and to state that properly. So we stated that properly on the public record, and by our actions, we have stated that. I just put it in affidavit form, but we've been doing everything that has to do with us already. We're already governing. Some people are under the impression that that the Moors are not governing yet. Yes, we are. We've been doing it. And see, what some don't understand is that governing starts with just knowing you're a Moor. And any one of us who's done even one affidavit, that's governing. We are the law and we are the government. Any affidavit that you put out there, that means you're putting the law out there and you're governing something on your own vast estate. We're already governing. Some people are waiting for, maybe a big giant, I don't know, a star to fall out of the sky or something. I don't know what there was, a spaceship to come. I don't know what they're waiting for. It is a state of mind. That's why it's called government, governing the mental. That's where government happens first. Governing the mental means knowing who you are. And when you know who you are, you already know that government is in your blood. So it's not like someone has to wave a magic wand and dub you the government and then give you you know, a plaque. No, that's actually a lawful responsibility. We do that from birth. We don't need, you know, a big giant ritual. We just need to do it. Don't wait, do it. It's who we are. Government is not outside of us. It's within us. We're already governing. Don't let anybody tell you you're not governing already. You already are. Period. Yes, it happens first in the mind. And I'll tell you this, the minute we crown the Stargate, more government is born. We govern even from then. We govern before we even get here. So, you know, we need not wait for a giant hierarchy to form itself over us. We're already governing. And all we have to do is keep governing. And as we continue governing, our territory is getting larger and larger and larger. It's called enlarging our territory. That's all. That's from the ancient record. It's from the ancient record. So we don't, you know, some they seem a little worried about whether our government is going to stand. We're already standing, already governing. Court actions, what is that? That's governing. We know that we're the postmasters general. We know that we're the police. We're all of that. We're already governing. And this document states that further. It is a court action that was done. And we spell Morocco, M-A-R-O-C-C-O, or it can be spelled, because we know that vowels are interchangeable, so either way is fine. For this document, we decided to spell it with an A, and that's fine, because we're the Phoenicians. We can do that. And it means what we say it means. It is a court action, and all it is just stating that we are the seat of government. And here's the thing about that. This document came about from my studies. I was reading in the quote-unquote congressional records from 1871, around the time that the corporate fraud happened, to see what, you know, I just like to look at the forensics of the dead system and just kind of look around to see what else we can bring to life. And when you go to the 41st Congress, Session 3, Chapter 62, which is also restated for USC Chapter 3, where seat of government Title 4 is concerned, you can see these same laws, except they're codes and statutes. They're not laws until we make them laws. So we edit them accordingly, and we do them as we see fit to do them. And again, with us going into commerce, this needed to be done. We needed to state the municipality, which is us, all Moors. We don't need any foreign municipality attempting to do anything where our commerce is concerned. Because when you have a foreign municipality, they're going to say things like, oh, you need a driver's license, you know, because we were telling them that driver's license is for commerce, isn't it? But that's not all totally correct. What it really is we have the right to travel, and even in our sovereign commerce, we have a right to travel. But we're going to do things lawfully and properly where most have already been trained in those areas where commercial travel is concerned. So all they have to do is convert the document. Convert the document. Conversion of the documents is really reversion of the documents. You take the corporate document and you just look at it. You don't have to fill it out or anything. You just look at it, and then you create a sovereign affidavit. We talk about that all the time. We're going to continue to make that a priority, because it's time for real commerce to resume. Okay. So this document came from that. We're wanting to, we keep looking through and doing the study and ensuring that we lay the foundation properly of all that needs to be stated on the public record where competence is concerned. And this document is just another document that proves to ourselves that we are competent to govern. That's all it's saying, is we know that, you know, yes, we've done our government structure where the Moorish divine and national movement of the world is concerned, and then the Moorish National Republic federal government, and then the Moorish American consulate, and then that brings in the Moorish American consular court, which is all of us. Again, this is all Moors who consent, all Moors who want to be a part of it. And then that brings in this piece where the seat of government, somewhere along the way we consented to the seat of government being Washington, D.C., that place over there. And because they can't do it without our consent. That's number one. They can't do it without our consent. They can't do anything without our consent. So somewhere along the way we consented. And when I'm looking back in the historical record, it looks like at some point this West Coast was underwater. It was underwater while the East Coast was not underwater. There was something that happened along the way. And, you know, we're still looking at all of that. And that's where the law of that lost at sea piece came from. That whole lost at sea piece came from a flood, a great flood that took place. Now, whether that flood, the flood happened first in the spirit and then it happened in the natural, and the whole earth already knows about the great flood, and that's where all of that came from. And then as the land emerged from that, and you know, land is still emerging. The water is still receding. It's receding on all of the coasts. So that land bridges that were ancient land bridges, because see, that's what the uniting of Asia looks like in this manifestation where land is concerned, is the land bridges have reappeared. They're not telling us. We don't need them to tell us. But we've seen it on maps now where, you know, every place that was over there, Russia, Japan, all of those places, the land is starting to appear between there and here. Same way on the what they call the East Coast, where Africa, the other Africa, is much closer than we've been led to believe. And the land is starting to reappear where the oceans, the water is receding. And that just means our state's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, and all of that. And that which has already happened in the spirit realm is happening now in this dimension. And having said that, we are not at war. The war is over. It's a wrap. There never really was a need for a war, and we've never really been to war. We've always been the peace. And the thing about that is this: all we're doing right now, please write this down, put it on your phone, put it in your memory. We're not at war. All we're doing right now is enforcing that we've already won. That's all we're doing right now. We're the law and we're the government, period. We're just enforcing that we've already won. In the chat, there is a question, Empress Patricia. IRS is one of the big thorns in her side. She says, does anyone know the IRS code that states that all of their codes and statutes apply only to their employees? There is a USC code that says, that states that the United States is a corporation. That code is the one that, and I believe it's 3002 USC, and just one moment, let me see. Just one moment. Let me make sure. Justice Yezreel, do you know which code that is? I don't know it right off the bat, but you know it wouldn't take but just to look it up really quickly.
It seems like it's 3001, something like that. 3001, 3002.
Yeah. Let me just see.
Oh. Section 3001 or 3002.
I think it's 15
USC 18. Is it at chapter 18?
Let me just look. Let's see. Um, 28 USC 3002, subsection 3002. I knew it was 3000 something. 18 USC 3000, and I'm sorry, wait a minute, let me go back. Yeah, 28 USC 3002. I believe that's what it is. United States corporation or legal entity means any corporation or other entity organized under the laws of the United States or any state, commonwealth, territory, possession, or district of the United States. And when they say that, they're saying United States with a capital U and a capital S. So that's 28 USC 3002. That states that they're a corporation. And then also, I believe it is, let's see, yeah, it's Title 28, USC 3002. That's one place to find it, and then there's also a couple of others. Let me just see. So again, remember, Empress, you are the Internal Revenue Service in red and all lowercase letters. You're the boss of that. You're the boss of that, and you raise them from the dead because they're actually acting in a dead status, a dead corporate status. So you just raise them from the dead, and then they become subject in subject status, and then you give them command.
Okay. I sent them a no more bills affidavit and also the termination of contract affidavit because they're trying to claim that I owe them, well, that person owed them $5,000.
Yeah, that's they're talking about a corpse having a debt, and you know, you're not any name in all capital letters.
Right.
That's typical capitalism right there. That's the part that we're out of that. We're outside of capitalism. And so meanwhile we can take all the benefits on our land and that's why we terminate the corporate contracts, etc. You know, because the benefits belong to us. No matter what the benefit is, it belongs to us. But the debt does not. You know. So
that's why I want to use it against them. That's all. But thank you for the information.
Yes, Islam, Empress. Another something that we're looking at, we just recently talked about that same thing on one of the previous calls, where when we do affidavits, we do them all as a court action. And then with regard to the Inquisition Revenue Service, because that's what they are in all capital letters, that is not a real living body. That's a dead something, a dead creature. That dead creature just needs to be raised from the dead so that they get in such status, and then that will make them blue. And when they are in blue subject status,
how come all your
last
court actions haven't done anything to me, Pauline?
Name last, last name first and the first name last.
Islam?
Yes, Islam.
I put in the chat, get the book correcting the position of the IRS on Social Security taxes and income tax and stuff. And I'm looking at it right now. If you get the book on page 62, it will tell you in General Revenue Service Code, Title 26, Chapter 1, Part 31, Section 3402. And all the information is right there. But it's got, this is a treasure trove of information. It's worth it. It's about, what, 8 or 10 notes for the book.
Yeah.
From RV Bay Publications. And then read it.
Beautiful.
And then you'll become an expert at it. Islam.
Yes, beautiful. And that's going to help with the language for your affidavit.
Absolutely.
Just put it in red in all lowercase letters. Because we know even in, and we proved this the other day, even in the IRS records, red is the creditor. And red is the one who can claim credit. Except we don't use their forms. We do it by our sovereign government affidavit. And, you know, I say that a lot because it's necessary to say it, because that's something we did not know previously, and now we do. So we're just going to hammer that on home so that we continue being the creditors that we are.
Islam,
yes.
Again for a minute, because this is one that's even more important than I've been telling you. It's questioned a lot. On page 63, to all workers and employees regarding the possession and use of Social Security numbers. Very interesting. There is no law requiring a person to have, obtain, or use a Social Security number to live or work in the quote-unquote United States. Social Security is a voluntary system, and there is no legal requirement that an individual obtain or use a Social Security number. All the information that breaks that down is on page 63. And I remember at least 2 or 3 people told me they were thinking about retiring but didn't know how to get their money because they couldn't get, they told them they had to have a Social Security number and driver's license to open an account. Also, there's no law that you have to have a driver's license. There are codes that you have to have it. And always remember, if you get a license, you're getting a license to do something that would otherwise be unlawful. That's why you need a license for it. So, study, and you'll become
right, because we don't need licenses at all.
Absolutely, we do not.
And
never did.
I have that book. I have that book.
Yes, read it. It's an excellent book.
I've had it for a while now. I've just found it, and yes, I will be reading and studying this book.
Islam.
Correcting the position of the IRS.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me.
Islam.
Islam. You know, we have all the tools that we need to get done, everything that we need to get done. We have to just keep doing what we're doing. I have a question for the heirs. Do you see a difference between what's happening with all that we're doing as Moors, between when you first woke up and now? Do you see a difference in everything that's going on?
I do.
I see a difference. I've experienced it.
Islam?
Islam.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of difference in this area, for as the enforcement of certain things not being enforced by those who claim false jurisdiction to do it, and the documentation for as requiring certain forms when you go to certain places were not accepted. Now they are when you show that national identification as opposed to requiring you to have a driver's license. So yes.
Islam. Anyone else? I would love to hear as much as possible in terms of all that's going on and the differences. And I can definitely, you know, I could go all day with things that I see that are different.
Islam?
Islam, Empress.
What I see is I'm constantly seeing videos of the capitals of each city, well, state, excuse me, all being shut down behind barbed wire fence with military around them. So boarded up, and then along with that, so many shopping areas in hotels, and I mean, just in some cities, I mean, the whole downtown is closed, and people are wondering if it's coming back. So it's something super major going on. If anyone can see that, they should take some time and look around. So that's what I'm seeing right now. Islam.
In the chat, Justice Morpheus says, post office in my area using blue color ink instead of black. They've been raised from the dead. They've been raised from the dead. We put that on the public record. Are there any? Yes, Islam.
I'm still not gotten the understanding about the prisoner of war flag at the postal places. Can you shed some light on that?
The prisoner of war flags at the post office.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a couple of overstandings that I have with regard to that. One of them is that according to the corpses, not the subject, but the corpses, or the subjects who were acting as corpses. According to the corpses, they have lost some people in this whole assisting the Moors with waking up and standing up. That's one of the overstandings that I have with regard to the POWMIA flag. Is that the hybrid has, they've had some casualties over there on their side with regard to, and then there are a lot of them who are behind bars.
I asked one of the workers concerning that just to see what their official statement would be, and they apparently don't know as well, but said they're prisoners of war, and they aren't.
They're not going to tell you. Yeah. They're not going to tell you that it's about them assisting the heirs with standing. See, they were supposed to present resistance to us until we were competent to raise them from the dead, put them in such status, lead them, do court actions, all of that. Those were things that we were supposed to do. We were supposed to do those things. And until we got competent to do them, they were going to just keep resisting and resisting until we do what we're doing now, until we subdue them. Because in the Bibliotheca it talks about subduing the earth.
Islam.
Islam.
So they are. Go ahead, no, Billy.
I just wrote something in the chat because I intended to bring it up a while ago. I saw it in my search when I was searching flags and standards, and that little flag came up. It's the U.S. military's highest flag. And look at what it says, something similar to that. I couldn't remember exactly the wording, but it's a war with a fez on, and the filial, you can see it out there, and it says, "For them we will fight."
Where's this flag? Which flag did they say?
It was. I have to go back and find it. I was looking through things. It's a U.S., not a U.S., an American military standard. So I'm sure some people have seen it before.
Yes. Islam, Brother Jim, is it black and white in color?
I saw it in color.
No, is the flag itself black and white? This is black and white in color. That's at the post office, postal place where we live, or in our area, excuse me.
No, the post office flag, I've seen a black and it's not just black and white. I've seen some yellow or gold in it too.
This one says prison of war, and it's black and white. Are you?
Islam, the one that I'm seeing here in the text territory is black and white, the prisoner of war flag.
Yes.
Black and white in California, Calipia land.
It's saying that the post office is a prisoner of war because the post office comes out of the UPU. And the UPU is an ancient council that was put together to carry mail along the Silk Road. And the Silk Road is what China is working with all countries to put back together, because that is, and the Silk Road is not just land, it's land and water routes that are there. Never went anywhere except out of memory. They're all there, and they're putting it back together, and that's part of Humpty Dumpty.
Yes. Did anyone, first of all, another thing about that flag, I'm glad you asked about that POW MIA flag that's flying at most of the post offices on our land. Let me say this about that. That flag is further proof that everyone on this land who is not us is here in a military capacity.
Yes.
Every one of them is, I don't care if they're retired, on a walker, in a wheelchair, they're in a military capacity, because they will be the first ones trying to say something about a mask.
Islam in an
it's
active
military action. Active.
Capacity.
Oh, yes.
Islam, every single one of them.
Yes.
All the churches are spy centers.
Yes.
All the dioceses are higher up intelligence collection centers. All of them, not some.
Yes.
All of them. So for those who still think they should be going to church, they should go drag their kin out of it, letting them know that just by going there, the damage they're doing to themselves. Islam.
You know what? Their kin are going to come out of there eventually anyway, because it's getting so uncomfortable. Because our kin has the same blood that we do. They know something's not right. And they're not seeing as many that look like them in those spy houses.
Islam, just to add a little more to that, talking about the churches, also the schools and the jobs. Now there are some people working in the schools who don't know, but all they are then, they are what you'd call the what are they? Not overseers, but they're the drones that go around and will do the work, not knowing that they're killing their own, mentally and physically.
Yes. 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 In the chat. Just 1 second. Let me make sure that what's on the screen it should be on there. Let's see. And then we'll talk a little bit about that. Yes. Letting Moors out at the almost at the same time. I know in my spirit that that when we went in there into the POW camp, that based on the demonstration that we did, some things changed in this dimension. And that's all I'll say about that, Justice Frank. I'll leave that as that. We know that our demonstrations were to the point where our ancestors showed up and showed out and did their thing, and we know that some things in this dimension changed based on the power and the authority of the demonstrations that we did in there. And whether that had anything to do with other Moors whom we sent paperwork for getting out around the same time, I know that our ancestors know what they're doing, and I don't believe there are any coincidences. I don't believe that, and that's all I'll say about that. But I wanted to talk also a little bit more about all of the hybrids that are on this land being military. I don't care how nice Miss Becky is living, around the way. Miss Becky is in their military. She's in their military, and now that's no reason to be mean to anybody, because clearly we're still here. And we have stopped a whole lot of that stuff that's going on. And when I say we, I'm talking about all Moors. But I'm not sure if any of you watched the funeral for the one that was doing business as Prince Philip.
Oh, that jerk. I mean, that thing.
No,
that's
he was the one doing.
For the last. He was eating children.
Well,
and
I was kind of not wanting to go that route, but
it's real. That's what they're doing. They're celebrating that. I watch it 10 times a day as it's being done, and so I've watched it for 50 years as it was being done.
Okay, so Islam. So that one, he was doing business as the postmaster of the whole world, not the earth, but the world. The world is a lot more limited than the earth. He was doing business as the postmaster of all of that. So in their fictitious corporate setting, he was over all the courts and all of that kind of stuff, and the Pope was over the policy enforcers. And that's how they did all the policy enforcers, and the Queen was over the ones doing business as attorneys and lawyers. So that's how all of that fraud was being done on our land. But let me say this about that: if you go back and watch the procession of the family walking behind the hearse or whatever the truck his body was in, you will notice that every last one of them, except just a few of them, have military medals on their black clothing. And that's all of the children, which is Charles and his sister and their children, and the ones doing business as Prince Harry and Prince William, etc. They all have military medals on their chest. Charles, all of them, even the females, on their clothing. and you'll see the military walking near them, their military, their corporate military, walking near them with the same medals on their clothing. They're all, the queen has a brooch on her that's a military emblem, because when you look at the pallbearers, the lead pallbearer had the same thing on his military uniform as the brooch that the one doing business as queen had on her clothing. So they were all doing military action. All of them, including the priests, they all had military symbols on them. And they were doing that in service to us. All of that was done in service to the waking up, the safekeeping, and the waking up of the Moors. We keep ourselves safe, okay? And we don't ever have to appeal to them. See, the thing is, if we thought we had to appeal to them, they would just be, you know, they would do things harsher and more cruel, more, you know, more pushy, violent, whatever. We must stand and know that we are indeed the sovereign and not them, not the Pope, not the one doing business as queen, not the one doing business as president, president. President is just another word for resident, which means identified as property. Until we raise them from the dead, and then they become subjects, living subjects, period. So they were all doing military operations, and now that time is closed. It's closed. And that's because we're standing. So all we have to do is keep standing. Again, testing, nothing to be afraid of. Let's just keep going. We've made the changes are just from the time, and I'll answer my own, the question that I posed earlier that we heard from the heirs with regard to the changes that we see from the time we woke up to now. It's like night and day for the way things were when I first woke up to now. Night and day. I mean, when I think about who I was before I woke up, I feel like I'm a complete, just changed, transformed, new person. New, not person, but new heir. Just because when you see the fraud and then the ancestors show you how to get past the fraud and how to assert your sovereign authority even in the face of whatever, you can't be the same. You can't go back to sleep, etc. Now, I want to say one last thing as we lead into the pause before our next call. Some days when we wake up, it may feel like the clock has rewound a little bit and things start to look a little bit like they did before we woke up. Let me say that whenever it feels that way, because I used to experience fear when I would wake up after seeing all those changes happen, and then when I log on to my computer, the stories start to look like a lot like they did a year ago. The ancestors have let me know that whenever that happens, all that means is we've risen to a higher level. Not only have we risen to a higher level, but now the ancestors have us going back and perfecting anything that we may have seen, but now we get the opportunity to perfect it even further, because there's so much to what we're doing that we never lose ground. We're always gaining ground, constantly. No matter what happens, we're always gaining ground. We're always rising. We just have to look around and see, okay, what is it that we were doing before that we need to tie up the loose ends on? Because sometimes, in most cases, the ancestors will introduce a process. Let's say, for example, they'll introduce a process. And they'll introduce it, but they won't say much about it. They'll just put something out there and let us see it. But we won't use it yet. And it will be another year before we use it. Well, that's how they operate. That's how the grand rising works. And in order for them to introduce it and it not scare us, the situation is created so that it's like, okay, this is what we have to do next. Then, when it feels like the clock has been rewound just a little bit, it's because it's getting closer and closer to time to use that principle that the ancestors have introduced. They did that with the court action. In 2018, which to me was, you know, I was barely a year old, maybe a year old, maybe a little bit old, about a year and a couple of months, when I did my first court action. I didn't do my next court action until like about 7 or 8 months later, in maybe the end of 2018 on into 2019. I didn't do my next court action. The ancestors wanted me to see that I could do it. And they showed me that that is absolutely the right way to go. Then they said, okay, now study some more, and we'll give you some space and some time to study that process, because that's a process that you're going to use. Okay. And before we know it, then they created a situation where I had to do the court action or risk policy enforcers doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So the ancestors created, they gave me the information, and this is how they work. I'm just telling you so that when you see these things happen, you'll be at peace and you'll just continue to study. They answered my question when they showed me that we have to do court action. And they said, because when I asked them, how do we get past them? How do we get past their fake courts, and how do we get past their fake policy enforcers and all of that? Those two were the scariest things for me. So what did the ancestors do? They first showed me that we have to do court action. So I did my first one. And they showed me also that we didn't need a team of 30 Moors to do court action, because we're sovereign. We just need to do it, and then they will give us the pathway to navigate the rest of the way. Sovereigns have the authority. In and of themselves, each one of us has more authority in our pinky finger than the whole corporation doing business as U.S. Supreme Court. That's what sovereign means. That's what a sovereign is. That's who a sovereign is. It's a wrap. We won already. All we're doing now is enforcing the win. So the ancestors, you know, and then once I did that court action, it took a few months, like probably 7 or 8 months. And then the ancestors tested me by having policy enforcers come to the door, knock on the door 3 weeks in a row. So they gave me time. Every morning they would knock on the door, and of course I did not answer the door, but I went through all of the fear and the programming, the ancestors, day in and day out, fear and programming. Then the fear and programming left, and then anger came because I was tired of them knocking on the door. And then the ancestors said, okay, what are you going to do about it? And I knew after a while that the only way they're going to stop is the ancestors want to show me how to make them stop doing that. And sure enough, that was when I did my second court action, and I've been going ever since. And as it turns out, the ancestors validated further that the court action is the way out. one of the ways out, one of the major ways out, because when I went into the POW camp, I did court actions, and here I sit free. So that's how the ancestors do things. They're always going to give us the equipment and show us the tools and give us whatever we need in order to get through the test. And we can get through the test a lot quicker and easier if we do not war, if we don't let emotions and anger and frustration and all of that take over, and we listen and look for the lessons. And when we listen and look for the lessons, the tests are a whole lot shorter. A whole lot shorter. Or if we decide to war, the test can be drug out and drug out and drug out and drug out for months and even years in some cases. And no one wants that. No one wants that, and I don't want that for any of us. The sooner we're at peace during the testing, no matter what the testing is, even if something happens. For example, if, when I was detained the first time, I could have gotten angry and all of that, but I probably would have still been in there. I don't know. But that's up to me. It's up to us how soon our testing ends. That's completely up to us. It's not even up to HEIRS. That's up to us. Be at peace. Look for the answers in it, and be sincere about looking for the answers. And the ancestors will give you the answer, and you do it, and then they say, okay, you did good on that test. Let's move on. So with that being said, are there any other great wisdom? We've heard some great wisdom as usual from the heirs today. Is there any other wisdom anyone wants to either put in the chat or *6 and let us know about if things are going well in your territory or not? Now is a good time to bring that forth as well. Islam.
Because I am not one of those people who follow anyone. I do my own due diligence. And my due diligence is telling me, do not write in lowercase letter and in red. It's telling me to tell you this. And I've been sitting up at night reflecting on it. How can I tell these people what they should already know? Because basic.
Say your name. Say your information, please. Empress, can you? Empress.
I'm going to base a lot of stuff on that, and I'm going to refer back to that because
Empress, can you state your information, please?
And I'm going to start to break down words so you'll realize the.
Okay, I was hoping to hear what she said. I'm going to, and she is not in anymore. I'm not sure.
Muted. The recording has started.
You're still talking?
Empress, are you there? I'm hoping she will come because I want to hear what she's saying. I hear what she's saying about, I hear what she's saying about that the red letters is in writing in all lowercase letters. We've already done the study. That's not going to change. But I'd love to hear what she has to say about it. And if she can prove it with a dictionary and some law. See, we're open to hearing everything that the heirs are saying. I want to make sure that we give her an opportunity to come back and say whatever she has to say. Go ahead, Empress. Go ahead, Empress.
I notice how a lot of times the HEIRS, they will always come on and tell us what can't be done and what we can't do. But we have to always remember that there was a time before they came. We were doing everything that we were doing in the first place. We were governing anyway. We say that, but we have to remember that there was a time that we were doing that, and we were doing all of the things that we needed to do to govern, and we're going back to something that already existed. We're not making up the wheel. We're not making up anything new. This stuff already existed. So to come back now and say, oh, well, this is not going to work. Well, guess what? It worked before. It's been working long before, and we're just moving in the steps of our ancestors and doing the things that they did, and what they're telling to do, and what they're telling us to do, and what's in our blood, what our blood is telling us to do, because that's the ancestors coming out of us telling us this is the time to do this, it's the time for that, and it's time to stand up. So, you know, to come now and then, like, we're supposed to listen to you and you tell us, oh, no, you can't do that. No, we tell you what to do. We tell you that you can't. We tell you that your time is up. That time is over now, and you're just going to have to deal with it. It's a wrap, and you're going to have to deal with it and gracefully bow out. It's time to gracefully bow out, you know?
Islam.
So don't stop going kicking and screaming. It's just, you know, go respectfully.
You know, it does feel like they're kicking and screaming right now, because it's like we're not going to stop doing anything that we're doing. We're going to keep going, and in fact, it's about to go on hyper, you know, speed and hyper velocity and all of that, you know. So it just seems like they're having tantrums, like a 2-year-old tantrum. The hybrids coming on to, you know, to the call and having tantrums. You know, now they're resorting to putting, you know, like photoshopping pictures and putting it in the chat, and, you know, memes and all of that kind of stuff, because there's, you know, if you don't have the law on your side, then you're going to resort to memes and cartoons and childish little stuff.
That's right. There's nothing else for them to say. And, you know, he always said, oh, you're not going to put a lien. Well, guess what? You never have identified yourself because you're scared to identify themselves. They won't come on. They won't show their face. They won't give their information. But if it's not true, then why wouldn't you do it? So they know that this stuff is factual, and they're nervous, and as they should be. But what we're doing is helping everybody. It even helps all the subjects. You know, it's going to help get them. You all of them are slaves. For all you hybrids on the call, in the chat, you guys have all been slaves to the corporation for a long time, and we're trying to get you guys out of that as well. It helps out everybody, you know. So to want to stay in that, that's fine. If you want to stay in that world and keep being a slave and a debt slave, the way the corporations has had everything set up for you. But it would be best, if I was them, it would be best to just go back to the way things were, you know, so I can live the best life I could, you know, live out your days, you know what I mean, the best you can. And that would be with us in charge, period.
Yeah.
Yep, I yield.
Wow. You know what, Empress, that makes all the sense in the world to me, you know. And that's why when they come and be, you know, do things on the call and all of that stuff, it's kind of like, you know, we're not going to apologize for being ourselves. We're not going to stop. So, you know, the tantrums is, you can stop at any point that you want to stop, you can stop. Because we already know that you don't have anything to contribute in the way of the law or information that's going to change what we're doing, because we are the law. If we weren't being effective, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't keep coming on here like that. You know, and, you know,
right.
Again, we love them.
We are the savior. We are your saviors right now. We're the ones who's bringing everything out and putting peace on the earth. We are your saviors right now. So you're just going to have to deal with it, and it's time to actually be happy. You guys should be celebrating. I mean, you guys should be celebrating that we are back, you know, and ready to put peace and love and, you know, all what's positive back on the earth, on the planet, the way it needs to, the way it always needed to. Yep.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you ask me, I think they are celebrating, you know, They may not do it on here, but something in my spirit tells me that they're not that mad, you know, because when you're really, really mad, there's other things that people do, but, you know, I don't think they're that mad at what we're doing. I think that they're, you know, they're just presenting some resistance. Okay, so there's some resistance.
Islam?
That's not going to stop us.
One little piece of information, they're not that smart.
You know, maybe that's what it is.
Remember that. They're not that smart.
Yeah.
Islam.
That makes sense because you know, you sometimes you expect things to be a little craftier if someone's really mad, but they can't think of anything.
Right.
So that might be why. I don't know.
Limited vocabulary.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because all we see is, you know, 2-year-old insults and, you know, things like that, and that's not insulting, really. I mean, insulting to me is when people don't follow the law. The supreme sovereign law. Islam.
And Noble Jew Ali said, go ask ones who know law. It was not them he was talking about. There are hybrids who know law and who will speak with you and give everything. Again, they need to maybe pay attention to Michelle Gibson and some of the other people who are actually seeing and working to save their butts before their pale people take them and grind them up like whatever.
Yes.
You know, so but can't get mad about it. We brought them here, and we'll fix it so they can stay. They'll just be better mannered.
Yeah, that's why I don't get upset, because we created them, and you know, we created them to act just like they're acting, you know. So we just keep doing what we're doing. Speaking of Michelle Gibson, she and another one of the subjects is doing they're doing a series on, they call it the Triangle of Fire.
Yes, yes, and
which focuses on this territory here. And in the video, the latest one that I saw them do, which was I think number 4 in their series of the Triangle of Fire, they affirm some things that I have known in my spirit about this territory. I know that this territory is the ancient district for Colombia. I've even seen maps that say that. And that they said in their video that the Capitol building here at Olympus, which is ancient Olympus, that same Mount Olympus, etc., all of that's here. But the Capitol building here at Olympia territory has the highest dome on our land, the tallest dome on our land. Dome being, you know, the ones that all the Capitol buildings have, those domes. And then also, it also stated that this territory has the only temple of justice on our land. And she said that the only other reference to a temple of justice was the Supreme Court, the fake Supreme Court, and that was just a reference. They didn't call it that. It was something that they referred to in one of the writings, not in the law. But this is the only temple of justice on this land. It's here. That's another, and then this territory, this reservation that I'm on here, which is the land, is Federal Way. That's the name of it, Federal Way.
Islam?
Federal Way is a governing term. That's a judicial term.
Islam?
And to call a whole place Federal Way is, you know, that speaks volumes with the Temple of Justice being here. Islam, no deal.
Have you ever been by the at the Columbia River and watch the locks and how they operate up in your neck of the woods. I spent a day before I was traveling to Seattle from Los Angeles, and I stopped there at that Columbia River, and this was probably 15 years ago. I was just there to watch how the locks operated and how the boats and the ships and everything, how they were getting them through there. And those are ancient locks. And also it was a time when I was watching the salmon run. And the salmon were actually doing their run upstream, swimming upstream. That's a long time ago, but that is a part of what you get there. Just as there's a Columbia River in Georgia, and there's a Columbia River there. It's because it's on the east and it's on the west.
Yes.
And they were not named, they were named something more than that, but I rest.
Yes. The Columbia River, and see, this is something that they're not going to show you on the map, but it's been affirmed here even by hybrid geologists. The Columbia River, there's a place where the Columbia goes underneath the earth.
Yep.
And it connects to the Mississippi underneath. And the Mississippi connects to the Allegheny underneath. And the Allegheny is where the colonizers, the colonists, some of them came in there. And that's where they met with us, our ancestors, and got permission to settle some places here. But the ancient Tigris and Euphrates, Columbia, Mississippi, Allegheny, there's a place mentioned in the Bibliopediathek where the 4 rivers disperse. It's that, and it's underneath the land that they do, where they meet. But see, the mud floods is what covered over that, but they're still meeting today. Go ahead, Justice.
Yes, again, Michelle Gibson has done a lot of research on the mud floods. I did a lot of it too, and Asir, the Duke of Tears, has done a huge amount. But what I wanted to say about these places, you know, when I said the hybrids aren't that smart, it's really because they aren't. They did not design the plan how to invade or how to take anything. Moors did that. Moors who were British Moors and others did that. None of this stuff was done to us. We did it and are doing it to ourselves. Yeah. And as soon as we catch up to that and catch on to that, it's over. Because it's a mindset. Yes. And we just have to reconfigure the mind to deal with the realities as opposed to deal with the histories. Islam.
You know, that was actually one of the most liberating awarenesses I've ever had, is that we're in control of everything.
Yep.
And even the test. See, that's why if we don't get mad at the testing, and we see it for what it really is, it's just testing by our ancestors to see who's fit to govern. And we all are. If we don't get angry at the testing and we look for the lessons in it, the ancestors, it makes everything so much easier. It makes everything so much easier. Things are so much easier now because of that awareness. Even knowing that I cannot go into a POW camp if I don't consent to go in one.
Yes.
To me, that's like liberating. That's the answer to the question that I asked the ancestors from the beginning. How do we get past that, they said, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. And into the POW camp I went twice. Yep. You know, but they gave me enough time in between both of those. And then they protected me the whole time. And all they wanted me to do was stand. Stand and be myself. And then implement the tools that I had learned. Stay calm, be peaceful, ensure that emotion does not get in the way. And I'm telling you, it's like walking on water. That's what it feels like.
Islam. And that, again, is a lesson, you know, we learn it both from what Nobujurali said and from what we do, and we hear it every day. You know, be the more you want to see, but you can't be what you don't know. So you must know yourself, and then you'll know that that is you. And the capacity that you're acting in is the aspect that you're choosing to use. Because there's nothing else outside of you, of any of us. It's us. And that's how we roll.
Yes.
You know, that's what it is.
Yes.
And so, get used to it, and it's over. Don't get used to it, and like you said, the lesson will last longer.
Yeah. Islam. You know, in Arabic they have a saying. There is no strength nor power except in Allah.
Yep.
That's us. We are Allah.
Absolutely. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. There she goes. Ain't no others. Look in her face.
There is no strength nor power except in Allah.
In Allah. And unfortunately, most of the people that speak Arabic think that's something outside of them. Well, again, because most of them are what you would call the wild Arabs. Because they went and mixed with the hybrids, that's why they got paled out. But that, again, we set that up for them to go. They just decided what they wanted to do once they were there. Those are in the stories. So there's lots of things to be, but we can choose each and every one, each and every second, which one we want to be. So, Islam.
You know, as I study languages, because I have absolutely fallen in love with all languages. And in Arabic, when you say there is no strength nor power except in Allah, it sounds exactly like language that they would say would be Native American language. It sounds exactly like it. La hawla wala quwwata illa billah. It's Arabic, but it sounds like something I would hear if I go onto a reservation, you know, a corporate reservation, because we know the whole land is the reservation for us. But it sounds just like something they say when they're having a powwow. La hawla wala quwwata illa billah. I'm loving all languages right now. And there's no such thing as failure, by the way. When you're doing your demonstrations, I'm telling you there's no such thing as failure.
Absolutely.
Let me give you an example of that. Just yesterday, I went into a place to get something. I went into a retail place to get something. And they know all about us. And I didn't demonstrate like I wanted to demonstrate. Of course I demonstrated, but I didn't demonstrate the way as powerfully as I like to demonstrate. I left and I was feeling really kind of like bad, you know, like, I could have done that a lot better than that. I really could have done that a lot better. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as I got back to my domicile, the ancestors created the situation where I had to go back there like 10 minutes later. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I get to fix whatever it is. And sure enough, when I went in that time, I did what we do. I demonstrated the way we demonstrate, and they couldn't say anything. They just had to give me what was mine, no mask and all of that, because, they like to push that mask thing, and I'm never going to wear a mask, ever, unless I want to wear one, And that's just if I'm out digging for some resource on the land and I don't want to sniff anything, I'll put a mask on. But aside from that, I'm not wearing one. But the ancestors always create the situation for us to help us do better and feel better about being ourselves on our land. So there's no such thing as failure, because as soon as you feel like you failed, the ancestors will start fixing things so that you have to do it again so that you feel better about demonstrating who you are. They really set me free with the second demonstration, because I was like, I could have done so much better. I'm a little bit hard on myself sometimes, but I got to not be that. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and take a pause here, and then we will reconvene on Wednesday at noon, and then we'll reconvene again on Thursday in preparation for our symposium on the 26th, so which is a Monday. So and then we are having our call on next week on Sunday at 6. And all of this is in preparation for the symposium and everything that we're going to be doing after that. When we introduce our laws and principles, it's not just a one-time thing. It's something that is going to be ongoing that we're going to build on from there. So we're keeping that in mind as we continue building the temple, because believe it or not, that temple that they've been talking about is being built right now by all the Moors right here on our land. So with that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine.
Gratitude and grand rising.
Grand rising, Moors. Peace and love.
Grand rising. Grand rising to the Moors.
Islam.
Virginia territory.
Grand rising, Virginia territory. Islam.
Islam. Grand rising to the Moors.
Grand rising nobility.
Grand rising.